We are going to be talking today about the evolution of healthcare talent management. And it's a really interesting space in that it's going through quite an evolution. We have somebody who can help us walk through that evolution. That's JP Fingado, who's the president and CEO of HealthcareSource. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Also a neighbor, by the way, down the street here in Woburn. Tell me a little bit about where HealthcareSource has kind of come to, because it's an interesting story. It's really kind of grown organically into this new talent management suite space.
Yeah, so it's a great company that started back in 2000, actually as a job board, but then quickly realized there was an opportunity in software and created an applicant tracking system. And from about 2000 to 2015, developed really four main products: an applicant tracking system to help with recruiting, performance management, assessment products, and e-learning. And over that period, accumulated about 2,500 hospitals across the US, almost half the hospitals, that used at least one of the solutions. Really in the last 2 years, we've really advanced pretty significantly. We've grown really in two aspects. One is we've taken those products and integrated them. So now we have a full talent management platform that runs everything from recruiting through performance management, development plans, succession planning, with full integrated information and data. But we've also expanded across the continuum of care. So we've gone beyond the hospitals. We now touch everything in senior living, post-acute. We've even gone to the contingent staffing agencies. So today, with over 6,000 locations in the US, we touch all aspects of healthcare, as well as both permanent and contingent workers.
Well, and this is an interesting new phase of how companies, well, healthcare organizations are coming at this, because in the past they've really kind of bought these siloed solutions. And the idea of a talent management suite, which is something that we cover a lot at Solutions Review, is saying, look, you need to be way more integrated about this. You need to think about this much more completely, primarily because there's a shortage of talent in the sector.
Exactly. In fact, what we've had to do is educate the market on taking a more holistic approach to talent management, realizing that it really is all connected. So here's a good example: learning and development. If you add learning to your people and help them grow, they're going to stay. They're going to be more engaged. The retention levels are going to go up. That's actually going to help your employment brand in the community. By helping your employment brand, now you're helping your recruiting side, because there are really a lot of macro effects going on. There's huge shortage of workers, and there's more demands on the system. So it becomes imperative to hire people quickly, grow them, and keep them. Otherwise, you're going to affect both your top line and bottom line of the organization.
Well, and that's really the difference between the traditional old school HR, concept of hire, feed them and hope they stick around, to now where it's just so much easier for somebody to effectively move one hospital down in some of these larger medical areas in these cities and get another job at a competitor without any resistance.
Exactly, and an average cost to rehire someone is about $14,000. When you get to a nurse, you get up to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And if that's a critical position and it takes you 4 to 5 months to fill that critical position, now can you take on more patients? Are you affecting patient care? It becomes a true quality issue.
So talk to me a little bit about the where you engage in the organization. So who are the traditional buyers of kind of HR solutions, and then who are really kind of the new buyers these days of this larger suite story?
Yeah, it's shifted. So if you back up 5 years ago, it was the directors and managers in the departments, the director of recruiting, right, the director of learning. They'd look and buy a point solution. The discussion and the decision making has now moved up to the C-level. It's the CNO who's really looking at learning across her entire nurse force. You're looking at the CFO from a cost perspective, the head of HR. The decision is far more strategic, where it used to be a tactical decision.
Well, and it's interesting because, certainly these are large organizations that we're talking about, and they've been buying large technology packages in all kinds of other sectors, compliance, certainly, security, networking, But now, they really have an opportunity to think about this human resource function, this talent management solution at that level.
It really is a workforce decision, and it affects all aspects of their business. Because think about healthcare. It's still a service industry. It's still people delivering care. And it's very complex. So what they've realized is they need people who understand healthcare. And it can't just be a generic system. Because when you start to look at things like hiring nurses, applying assessments, there's specific requirements of an RN that you may want, specific requirements of an ICU nurse versus a floor nurse. But now what happens when you have gaps? Do you fill those gaps with a contingent worker? And does that contingent worker fit your environment? Do you have the visibility into that? Or are you introducing someone that can affect patient care? There's all these different components that come into play in healthcare that you just don't see in other verticals.
So I think we've talked a little bit about the business case, but when you're engaging in a sales cycle and you are talking at that higher C-suite, what is the kind of larger touching business case points that you're trying to make?
Yeah, so the big three are time to fill, quality, and turnover. So from a time to fill standpoint, you obviously want to shrink that as quickly as possible, which means you need to have technology like recruitment marketing to go out and start to build your CRM of candidates even before you have a job opening. You're marketing to them. That way you can get them on board quickly. The quality piece is obviously the one that's emotional to all of us if we have family members that have gone through the health system, but it's also ties to reimbursements. Payers are now paying based on quality. If there's mistakes, hospitals may not get reimbursed for those mistakes. Plus you have the brand issue that starts to occur if it's not a high quality organization. Turnover is huge. Inside of healthcare, average turnover is 17%. First year turnover in a hospital is 30%. First year turnover in post-acute senior living, 50 to 75%. So keeping your people becomes incredibly important too. Then you go down to some of the other areas. Think of things like leadership assessments. How do you grow from within, right? Are you assessing people? Are you figuring their gaps so that when you have a need in leadership, you've got someone who's now been prepared for that? Workflow is huge. Putting a performance management system in isn't as simple as just drop in any piece of software. Outside of healthcare, average reporting relationships, 5 to 10 people per manager. A nurse, on average, has 49 direct reports. I've talked to some nurses recently, 150 to 200 direct reports. You need systems that actually support the workflow and automate a lot of the development plans and the learning to assist them in managing those large numbers of people. It really is a different environment.
Well, so it's a compelling case. And I always come away from those compelling cases as thinking, so why isn't everybody doing this? But there's obviously some friction at the higher levels, chiefly cultural, chiefly competing solution providers that may already have established themselves. Talk a little bit about what's standing in the way and what a buyer might need to kind of overcome themselves as they think about taking it to another level.
It's a different environment. And that's funny, I've spent 28 years in healthcare IT. I've watched so many companies look at healthcare and say, what a great market, let's go in.
Right.
I mean, big brand names that we all know. And they come in and they spend a couple years and they go running away because it's complex and it's hard. And when you understand the complexity, which we do, it makes a difference. 100% of our R&D goes into developing functionality for the healthcare environment. And hospitals and post-acute and healthcare staffing agencies, they want partners who understand the environment. They don't want to spend a lot of time trying to teach them about healthcare. And a lot of times when we look at replacements of existing systems, it's companies that have implemented the same software that they implement in retail and manufacturing, and it just doesn't fit the flow and creates a lot of risk inside the organization.
Well, JP, this is really an interesting topic. It's something that we certainly have been covering a lot about in our Talent Management Suite site, not only HealthcareSource, but talent management in general. I think it's a space that is, would you say it's early in its adoption curve? I mean, where do you think talent management is?
I think it's early, but it's the perfect time to be here from my perspective. Over the next decade, there are incredible demands being put on the system, the healthcare system, right? We've got about 10,000 people every day turning 65, so aging population. You've got a huge shortage of workers. We could be 1 million nurses shy over the next 5 to 7 years in this country, but every single clinical position, there's a shortage. So having technology that helps organizations hire people quickly and hire the right people and grow them, it now has the focus at the C-suite that it's never had before. Having an established platform, which we built over the last few years, puts us in a unique position to allow us to help organizations create a lot of value and protect people's lives.
Well, it's really interesting. We'll keep a track on HealthcareSource and see what I know you just launched a new website.
Brand new this morning.
Brand new this morning. Look at that. We got a scoop. Well, thanks very much for coming over. We appreciate the time. This is really fascinating stuff. We would encourage you to check out healthcaresource.com, certainly, for everything that they're offering, and our Solutions Review Talent Management Suite site.
Great.
JP, again, thanks.
Thank you very much.